I wish I was special. You're so very special. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here.
Zach, how you doing today?
Dude, I am doing phenomenal. How you doing, man?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited that we are together for our very first ever video review of our very first ever backlog game of the month, Life is Strange,
Heyo.
True Colors. We both played it. I think we both
Yes.
got into it a little late in the month.
Mm-hmm.
We both
Yeah,
managed to
we were a
finish
little
it.
bit behind.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we're
I
about
finished it the last day
that's
with a couple hours to spare.
one of the reasons why we're a little late on our review. We do want to try to put these out in the first week of the following month, but
Yeah.
we're here and we're going to do this
Hey,
review.
you know what? We're backlog gamers.
Yeah, we're backlog gamers, so we're kind of slow on.
We're always behind the curve.
We prioritize our families and our daily lives, and so everything else we're kind of slow on. So
That's right.
We this was my pick
Yes.
this time.
Yes.
So we're going back and forth every other month, except for 2 or 3 times a year. We're going to have a poll where people get to pick what we play. We put 2 games up there that you and I are like, yeah, I think I'd like to play this, and we'll just let you guys pick.
Yeah.
We're going to let our audience grow a little bit before we do that, though.
That's right. Our next one was kind of a combined, a joint effort.
Yes, Alan Wake. So that's wasn't Zach's pick, wasn't my pick. It was our pick. So
no, we were both looking really excited for that one. So
excited for that one. Can't wait to play the remaster of that. But today we're talking about Life is Strange, True Colors.
Yes.
And initial thoughts, Zach, after having played the game and completed it. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Okay. So initial thoughts. I wasn't going into this game ultra excited about it. It wasn't one that I was super looking forward to. It wasn't one that when it was first announced way back when, I wasn't like, I was just kind of like meh for me, and it didn't seem like one that I was like, oh, I got to sink my teeth into that. Whereas like you look at some other previous Telltale style games with like The Walking Dead and stuff like that, where I was like, yes, I'm all about it. I want to play it. This one was just kind of like, Life is Strange for me has always been kind of so I wasn't ever really excited about this game, but we chose it for the game of the month. And initial thoughts after playing it, actually it was a better experience than I was expecting.
Yeah. Same here, because I was a huge fan of the first Life is Strange with Max Caulfield and Chloe and their journey of discovering Max's abilities to rewind time and kind of be able to change the outcomes of certain scenarios or save people from jumping off roofs, to their death. And then I played Before the Storm, which I don't. Not really memorable for me because it didn't have Max and her abilities and that gameplay mechanic. And then 2, I don't even really want to get into 2. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
But you were excited about this one.
But this one looked interesting because it looked like they brought back special abilities for our main character, and I thought, and I wasn't really wrong that her abilities did kind of transform how certain things would play out throughout the game. About with the older lady having Alzheimer's and helping her retrace her steps to figure out what she forgot.
Yeah, sure.
And it was just a touching moment because it really puts you like it made the environment. It really made you feel like you were feeling what she was feeling,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that was touching to me because I was like, yo, this would be horrible, and you just hear her inner thoughts and how scared and worried she is.
She was, yeah.
And it was like, oh, this would be devastating. And I streamed it live, and some people in there have relatives that actually do experience this, and so they were feeling touched by it too, because it's like, wow.
Yeah, and in this game, you have the ability to make choices. It's one of those choice games where all sorts of different choices affect different outcomes and that kind of thing. What were some of the most memorable choices for you in this game?
I'd have to start out with the very first one, the choice to hug your brother or not.
Yeah,
because I thought it was
what did
crazy.
you do?
I hugged him.
Of course,
they're siblings. I'm like, oh man, they haven't seen each other.
Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers hug.
Yeah, so hugging your brother had consequences to it, which I was like, why would this? Why siblings hug each other? Why would you have a consequence? But then you kind of think about these kinds of games. They have a base plot line that goes through. They know where the story's going. There's events that are going to happen, regardless of what any choices you make, and so hugging her brother. And we should mention, by the way, that we will have spoilers.
Lots of spoilers,
because
at this point,
it's been out for a while now. So if you haven't played it, I hope don't listen any further if you don't want spoilers. I don't think we've ruined anything yet. But anyways, hugging your brother or not hugging your brother might have a different impact on her after he dies.
Right.
Because he dies the same day.
Yeah.
She sees him again for the first time in years.
Right.
And that
same night.
And so we both hugged him. So we don't know what the alternative or how things would have played out for her.
How it would have changed things.
Yeah. And she might have had
changed things.
Different dialogue options, things like that. But that's one of the more memorable ones that stuck out to me. Because I was like, oh man, that's wild. But they do have.
I really had two big ones for me.
Okay.
Were one, the last, it was one at the very end where you can decide to tell the girl going off to college. I can't remember her name.
You know what? It's been 2 weeks since we've last played it, so I'm already starting to forget names too.
Okay, the girl who's going off to college.
Riley. It was
Riley. Yes, and her grandma is the one with the Alzheimer's. Okay.
Yes.
And she doesn't know about it, and you can either choose to tell Riley, or you can hold her grandma's confidence. I chose to hold her grandma's confidence just because as a parent, I wouldn't want something like that holding my child back from going and experiencing what they need to experience to grow and be successful in life, right? So I chose to hold that confidence for the grandmother because I was like, dude, if somebody said that to one of my kids or something like that, and it ruined their opportunity to go to a college and make a better life for themselves, I would be so upset.
So for me on that decision, I never got to make that decision. I mean, I did go back and play.
Interesting.
Well, because I didn't realize I walked into the Black Lantern.
Yeah.
First, because I was going to work my way down the street. So I stopped at the Black Lantern first. I didn't realize at the time that when you walk in there and go up to that rooftop, that the story is going to progress from there and you don't get a chance to go back.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't even, and usually I'm pretty thorough when I go around. So I did eventually go do that. And I decided, whatever I say to her is not going to impact my overall playthrough. I would not have told her otherwise because I'm on the same line. I'm like, she's got, her grandma's got people here. Eleanor is her name, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The grandma. And I'm like, I think, she's got a good support system here already. And the town folks are really close.
And people who love her and will take care of her.
Yeah, we'll take care of her.
Let Riley go and do what she's got to do, right?
Right. But I kind of wanted to see, since I knew it wasn't going to impact my story, I chose to tell her. And she does pick up her bags and she heads back. She's like, I got to go talk to Eleanor. I got to go talk to her.
And she misses her bus and doesn't go off to college. Yeah, terrible.
Well, and so I don't know how that plays out in the long term because I didn't continue the next chapter after that. But
Yeah.
You know,
What the other one? There was
impactful.
really only one that was like really. It was really hard for me actually. That there was one in the entire game that actually was difficult for me. Not to make the decision, but just difficult to play it through. And that was, and you probably know exactly where I'm going with this, and it was with the little boy, okay, whose name was
Ethan?
Ethan, and his mom, whose name was Charlotte,
Yes.
okay? And it's that moment when you're with Charlotte and she's in this horrible rage and she is mad at Gabe, your brother. She's mad at you, the sister. But
It's playing right here in this box right now.
yeah, but for that moment, she says something to the effect of she hates her son. And I was like, no,
Yep.
absolutely not.
I had the same reaction.
As parents, and look, everybody has a different experience. I understand that. But as a father, I just could not accept it. And that moment in the game for me was it was a moment where I almost was like, you know what, I'm not playing this game anymore. This is ridiculous. I was furious.
It was
with
rough.
her as a character, not as I mean, I was mad. I was like, you don't hate your son. What?
I could now. So let me play devil's advocate here.
Do it, please. I
can
know
understand.
You felt what I felt.
Oh, I was like shocked.
Yeah.
I thought I was saying the whole time. I was like, that it's Ethan's fault. Gabe's dead. I mean, it really is.
Right.
I mean, we were out there. Okay, so it's not directly Ethan's fault because obviously Typhon was
the company
doing illegal stuff.
Illegal stuff.
They didn't want to cancel their mine explosion. Yeah, right. their cover up that they were pulling off. But it was Ethan's fault that we had to go out there to find him because we knew that they were going to do that, and he could have been in danger. So we had to go save him. And in the end, you know, Gabe died. So I could as a joke on stream, I was just like, oh, it's definitely his fault, you know. But I was like, but you don't blame it. He's a kid, and I blame Charlotte, who lets their kid go out there at night. I mean, hello. I mean, I don't know about you, but as a father, I take better care of my children. I don't let them go wandering off at night.
In the middle of the night. Well, not even in the middle of the night, like in the middle of the evening. Like
still, that's like you
disappearing.
I know where my kids are at all times.
It's ridiculous.
At all times.
I was, let's just say that in that moment, I was really upset.
Let me finish playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, do it.
I did go off on a tangent, but but she lost someone she loved.
Get it?
And I feel like not all emotions can be irrational sometimes, right?
Sure.
I think that's just a feeling she had. She blamed him. I knew she was going to say she blamed him, and of course, why wouldn't she? She's grieving.
Sure.
But I was taken back by when she said, "I hate my son." I was just like,
I get it. You can be angry at your son. Yeah. I mean, I have 3 of them.
And I
get angry at them plenty.
Yeah, but I don't think she meant. I don't think she truly.
You think that was just an expression of her anger?
Yeah, absolutely.
At that moment, rather than her actually hating him.
Yeah, people say stupid things that they don't really mean when they're angry.
Totally agree. And
I think that's what that was.
So you're taking that moment as a realistic moment in the fact that not that she actually hated her son, because it's just that just does not compute as a parent.
Right. I think all of her emotions in that section were irrational.
It was just an irrational outburst of anger, and she said things that she didn't really mean.
She said, I blame Gabe for making me feel the way I felt for him. I blame you because ever since you showed up, things started going wrong.
Yep.
I blame Ryan because Ryan was supposed to, take care of him out there because that's his wheelhouse. So I think it was,
So in that moment,
she was experiencing the anger portion of her grief. But I do believe there was a sad portion. If you played it differently, if you didn't pester her, I think you got a completely different section where she was supposed to be sad.
Interesting.
Instead of
so
anger.
let me ask you, did you, in that decision time, I eradicated her anger. I didn't even hesitate. I did not even hesitate.
Nope.
You let her feel her anger.
Of course.
You just left her.
Listen, people need to process their feelings.
Sure.
In my mindset was, I'm not going to force, gosh, what's the main character's name in that? I forgot her name. Alex. I was like, I'm not, Alex is already, she was in a mental hospital.
She's already having issues.
She already had her own stuff going on.
Yeah.
And she's got this ability where she can feel other people's emotions, like read their thoughts when they're feeling their emotions so strong and piece together, parts of their history. In my head, I was like, that you can't take that burden on yourself. That's you're talking about taking someone else's anger and putting it on you. Yeah. I didn't want to know what would happen if she did that. I feel like that's going to break down
fascinating.
Alex. I think that's going to overburden her.
The instant that she said she hated her son, my decision was made.
Interesting.
Because I could not believe it. And not even for a second. So I had to take it away from her. So that's fascinating. It is fascinating how the game really does play on the emotions of the characters in the game and also on the player, because it gave us very different reactions and emotions, which is rather clever mechanic of the game. Good job.
And how did that play out for you with her? Because she did process her feelings.
Yeah. So for me,
in the end, she moved on. She had a new boyfriend, a big hunky looking dude. I mean, she was happy.
Wow. She pretty much didn't feel things for a while after I took that away from her. Which obviously made me feel a little bit bad later.
Yeah.
So fascinating, really fascinating.
That's interesting how that played out. That's probably what really made this game stand out for me, is the way she was able to get into other people. I mean, her literal surroundings changed when she was trying to help someone.
Yeah.
Because she was feeling their grief or their anger or their joy, depending on what it was. And so I thought that was unique.
Yeah.
In a game that's very story driven.
All of this has been just general vibe on the game. What about some of the more specific things like graphics or visual, sound, audio? Talk to me about some of that stuff.
So Life is Strange True Colors has great music, I think. Brilliant music that absolutely just does a wonderful job at setting the tone. There are so many of these sections where she can sit down and a song starts playing and she's in a contemplative mood and she's just sitting there talking to herself and thinking. And I honestly think they kind of overdid it. There's like so many different sections you can do this.
Yeah, sure.
You can sit by the dock and then you can walk over and sit by the campfire and it's like, I mean, it's two moments that she can do that, like almost back to back. And it's like, why? But I think those moments were cool because it kind of took me back to the first Life is Strange, where Max puts on her headphones and she just is listening to the song.
And she's kind of just vibing out.
And I think it's a cutscene. So I'm just sitting here watching it play through.
Waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, and I didn't mind it. And I realized, I can back out of this at any time. Right, but it was just kind of one of those where I was just kind of enjoying the atmosphere. And in some of those situations, it kind of just shows the surroundings and you see. I think
there were some elk in the water, and you get to see the mountains, and you get to see the people on the main street. And I thought some of those moments were quite beautiful.
Yes, it made me feel calm and relaxed while I was playing it. I was like,
beautiful guitar music.
This is
very
nice.
Chill.
The music's kind of a little melancholic at times, but it was I mean, I thought those moments were great. I thought the visuals. I mean, it's cartoony. It's in a Life
Yeah.
is Strange game. They kind of stuck with the
There
same
were
graphics,
some
but
beautiful moments visually though.
yeah,
Especially on some of the character faces. They did a great job. And I think I think they had to put extra effort into the character faces because
yes,
of all the emotions. And as humans, we express so many of our emotions through our facial features. So I think they had to do that, but I think they did a really great job. There were moments where Alex would walk through and I just would think, wow, she looks beautiful.
yeah,
Like she looks beautiful. She
yeah.
looks wonderful. Um, the same goes for what's the girl who works at the record store?
Chloe.
Chloe. Yeah, yeah.
No, it wasn't Chloe.
Not Chloe. Not Chloe.
Stephanie, I think.
Steph. Thank you. She looked
She
like Chloe.
reminds me of
She did
Chloe, though.
remind me of Chloe. Yeah.
And
Uh,
honestly, Riley's boyfriend reminded me of the bully in the first game. Mac.
sure.
Mac
Sure.
reminded me of the bully in the first game.
Yeah.
I think it
But
looks and everything.
yeah, but some of their faces, some of their models just looked really, really wonderful. They did a great
Yeah.
job.
Oh yeah.
Ducky looked great.
Great character.
Great character, by the way. Wonderful moment with him
Yeah.
during the festival,
Yeah.
going back to the lantern, and he's all alone. And I decided to dance with him.
Me too.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was too beautiful of a moment.
Yeah.
Um, and
I,
I thought that was a
oh, yeah.
beautifully written moment where we got an opportunity. Now, here's the thing. In a lot of games nowadays, and in a lot of books and a lot of media in general, elderly people are just not portrayed well or cared for
Yeah.
or given emotion or um, any of these things.
Yeah.
And it was a moment where we could be special and for another human being who needed it. And I think that was, to be honest, the moment with Ducky in the lantern where you just turn on his former wife's and his favorite song and you just dance with him for a minute just to
Yeah.
give him a little sense of the old days was one of the it was easily the most beautiful moment
Oh
of the
yeah.
game.
I think this game made me feel emotional in a lot of different scenarios. And I thought
Mhm.
that was great because it was a game where you're building relationships with these other characters.
Yeah.
And honestly, it does play out in the end based on the types of relationships you made with these people.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the Ducky moment because he was such a stoic
So
guy.
great.
I mean, he hid his emotions, but Alex being able to read him, and he wasn't out enjoying the festival with everyone. I didn't even know he was in the bar. I was looking for collectibles.
Right, and then you find him. Yeah.
And he's just
right.
sitting there by himself. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, there's no music playing. You don't even have a drink. You're just sitting here in the bar by yourself. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So that was a really touching moment. For
I
sure.
love that. I love that. I got at least two things left in my head that I definitely want to touch.
Okay.
But one of those things is quirks. Some quirks to the game. Because we've talked about a lot of things that we actually have enjoyed a lot or were surprised by a lot in this game. And we've touched a couple of things that we didn't like, but we haven't really touched on like some of the quirks or some of the really kind of okay, what happened here kind of moments in this game. Any stand out for you?
I have quite a few. I thought the pacing was slow, especially in the first episode.
Yes.
Very slow.
100%. That was my biggest drawback was the pacing, especially in the first chapter. Noticed it a little bit in the second chapter as well. It did seem to pick up later in the game,
Yeah.
but especially in the first and early second chapter, I wrote that some of the timing in the conversations is awkwardly exaggerated.
Yeah.
Super awkward pacing. Reactionary dialogue is super delayed. I noticed it being really odd and just kind of clunky on some of the dialogue and some of the animations.
Yes.
Like they wanted to slow it down, but definitely did not need to be slowed down.
It did not, and that's kind of where those contemplative moments where there's so many different places you can do that. I felt like that was too much because it's like the pace of this game's already a little slower than I feel like it should be.
Yeah.
You know, and there's not a whole lot of reasons to go out and look for collectibles. I mean, unless you want all the achievements. I mean, some of those things didn't really matter, except for like maybe helping the guy find his dog. But the pacing in general was very slow to start. And I think those moments just kind of made it drag out a little longer. I had a problem with Alex constantly repeating the same phrase over and over. Like, oh, maybe I should go see what Riley needs. You know, and I'm just like, okay, I'm walking around searching for stuff. Let me play the game the way I want to play it. And she just kept, she was like that.
Of course, that's a device, of course, by the game developers to try to help you remember what you actually are supposed to do. So if people do get lost while they're playing the game,
right? But it could have been less frequent.
Could have been dialed back.
It could have been dialed
back. What is it? Weapon in Halo Infinite, where you and I will go off and search for things.
Yes.
And she keeps reminding us that we need to go back to the pillar. We need to go back to the
even that one though, it's, you know, she gives us time between.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Whereas in this one, I felt like when I was running around searching for stuff
over and over and
it was almost, I mean, it was like 60 seconds ago by and she say it again. I'm like, okay, I get it. I was, you know, even when I was streaming it, I was like, okay, shut up. I know what I'm supposed to do. Like, just stop. But I think my biggest gripe would be that, the pacing was slow. I think another grievance I kind of had is that in some areas of the game, they tried to make it like it was, too deep. Like they were trying to be edgy on how deep they could be with like the music snobs and although they did have some hilarious band names. But I can't remember the one. It was like dog poop in the yard. So I can't remember. I was like, is that an actual band? Like I tried Googling that. I was like, is that a but it was
he gets a Google picture
they made
of
all
dog
these
poop in somebody's yard.
Yeah, and I was just like I was like, oh my god, some of this stuff's crazy. But I don't know. I felt like they were deliberately trying to be too deep, to be like, oh, look at how
there were some moments like that.
Look how we're such good writers. Look how deep we are. Look how and to me as a writer, I saw right through that. I was like, that's not hitting me the way
you're
I
like,
think you're wanting it to hit.
That is nothing like Ducky.
No, yeah, I'm just like, that's. I mean, so I think every game has moments like that.
Ebbs
because
and flows like that, of course.
You have giant teams of writers that are putting this together, and this is a very narrative-driven game.
Exactly.
So I think those would probably be my biggest grievances.
What did you think about this is another one that I just came up with, I forgot about, but what did you think about the moment when you became a LARPer and you went around with Ethan experiencing this fantasy world through Ethan's eyes?
I think that was probably one of my favorite episodes, looking back on it.
I agree 100%.
Episode 3, because she's able to dive into people's emotions, and Gabe was like a father to this kid.
Mm-hmm.
He felt guilty for it.
Yeah.
He was feeling his, kids are intuitive.
And this is something that Gabe would have done with him.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And it was good that we could be there. And you see at the start, he doesn't want to participate. He's just, he's feeling his emotions. And then you play through this. And Ryan, such a big help.
Oh, yeah. And all the villains.
Yeah. All but one.
All but one.
And, taking him through this whole thing. I mean, it was great to see him just get involved in it. It took his mind away from his pain. Yeah. And then you go and you have that awesome fight scene with the king at the end, which by the way, we know now was absolute foreshadowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought that was, that was clever.
Very
writing.
Clever. Well done.
Yeah, very, very well done.
Again, there were clever moments in the writing. Yeah. Absolutely.
In that same moment, though, after you defeat the king and he gets the sword and he puts all the jewels in there.
Yeah.
and then they snatch it away because you hear the siren for the mines going off, and it immediately takes him back to losing Gabe. So you have that whole thing, and I was like, that's real. That really had. I felt like they captured emotions very well.
Yeah, that was.
And
great.
that LARPing episode was.
And you
great.
enjoyed the gameplay of that as well. How it kind of brought some RPG elements into it.
Yeah, which I'm not usually into that, but I was it was pretty novice, I think, because I was able to
very limited. No, nothing crazy.
I was able to dive into it perfectly because I'm not used to that JRPG style of combat where it's my turn to hit you, kind of combat. And it was a lot of fun.
I thought that was fun too. I agree. I love that. Okay, so we're gonna come into my biggest gripe right now.
Okay.
And I think you may be on the same page as me on this one.
Before we get into that, because I know I did want to bring out one more positive. The use of color in the game I thought was really good.
Yeah,
really good. I mean, being the glow around people, you could tell, you could immediately identify who was sad, who was angry, who was happy, who was scared or worried.
And the new color joy for her and that kind of thing. That was cool.
I just wanted to mention that real quick.
Totally cool. Yeah, I totally agree. That was an awesome thing. I think this is my biggest gripe, and I think you and I are probably going to be on the same page on this one. The last chapter.
Yeah, I had some gripes with the last chapter. One, it's one of my least favorite storytelling methods. Is that and I see it a lot in video games. You go through the game, things are going fine, and then all of a sudden you're in this dream sequence, and you're replaying these dream sequences, and it's murky, and it's like my thing is like, how is this propelling the story forward?
Correct.
And
you're going backwards to try to tell me how to go forward. This this is not working.
Well, and and I had this debate live on stream with people watching me, and they were like, "Oh, it's to get to know Alex better and why she's the way she is." And I'm like, "This is something This is something that should have been done early in the game." Then,
yeah. If this was so required for me to get to know Alex to a point where I cared enough, then it should have come way earlier. I didn't need this at this point.
And it dragged on.
At this point, I already knew that Alex needed people who loved her.
Yes.
And she was finding that in the people of this town.
But the thing I did take away from that,
I did not need all the background, whole sequence, like the whole chapter.
Yeah.
To tell me that she didn't have people who loved her and needed people who loved her, and she was finding that in this town.
Well, I think
that
the purpose of it was what Gabe tells her at the end of that, is that you need to unburden yourself. It wasn't fair for Mom to ask you to take this burden on you because you were 11, and you couldn't control things, and you need to forgive yourself, and you need to just let go. So I think as far as her character development, that made sense.
It didn't feel like that was necessary, though.
Yeah, you're supposed to be at the climax of the story here.
Yeah.
Right? This is supposed to be the peak. But they did it all because then you find out what happened to her father.
Of course, right.
And of course, so they had to have the pendant that you see in her flashbacks that her mom gave her, that her dad wound up taking. And it
felt like a whole standalone story that we didn't need.
And it felt more anticlimactic in a spot where it was supposed to be at its climax.
Right.
And not to mention, dude shoots her. She falls down into the mine. I don't think we ever saw a bullet hole on her anywhere.
Right. And not to mention this was where it was a little frustrating, because this is where the storytelling went way off track for me. Because really the entire game up to that point had been about her being able to be loved by people, because she hadn't been loved by people for her whole life.
Yeah.
Something that we understood from the early on in the game, and something that she was growing towards the entire game.
Right.
And instead of utilizing that everything that they had built up to that point by bringing characters to her aid, by bringing characters who would dive into this cave to save her, by bringing characters who would put together ropes and a team to rappel down into this cave to find her and help her. Instead of it being along those lines, we went on this crazy offshoot that just felt totally unnecessary.
Yeah, it's like
to complete the story that they had been driving the entire game.
Right. I completely agree. It took me out of everything that was happening. I didn't care to be in any of those flashbacks. I wanted to know how she's going to get out of this well. How did she survive it in the first place?
Yeah.
I mean, how did she not have broken ribs, internal bleeding? Where was the gunshot wound that was never addressed? And she's able to. And how did she get out of a mine where people that they were trying to cover up? They were trying to blast it and cover it up, where people died. Yeah. How did she even get out of that?
How was it even open for her to fall into anyways?
Right. So I feel like the story was so well connected with leading up to that. I mean, up until the end of chapter 4, where I almost immediately pieced together 10 minutes before they revealed that Jed was in on it.
Of course.
I was making comments on stream. I was like, Jed's probably in on it.
Yeah.
Jed's probably the guy. And then, of course, he wants to take you on a trip. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to end well for Alex. But that's so, I mean, I was like, okay, an interesting twist. Very easy to read. I don't know how I'm pretty good at picking apart a story where it's gonna go
at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, yeah, it really kind of took me out of all the forward motion they had.
Yeah.
And it was like they ran out of ideas. They're like Stephen King at the end of a novel. He's like, how do I end this? And that's just kind of how it felt. And even the big reveal ending at the end where they're at the city council and I mean, I don't know how it played out for you, but I mean, she basically got people
called them out
wrecked and it just felt anticlimactic to me because I'm like, this is not,
it really did.
This is not like the first Life is Strange where the teacher, kidnaps you and he's a serial killer. You find out he's a serial killer.
Yeah, right.
And you're like, what? I mean, I didn't see that coming. And so that was climactic versus this where I felt like it was just very opposite.
So let me ask you about one more decision before we go into a score. Because we do have to land on a score.
Yes.
For this review, for this game, as our first backlog game of the month for 2023. And let me ask you about one more decision before we do that. Did you decide to forgive Jed or did you condemn him?
Okay, I got a little story here that I even shared on stream. I remember when I was a kid watching on the news about the Green River Killer.
Okay.
And I remember seeing this guy, he was found guilty, and it was at the part where they let the families of his victims come up and, I mean, berate him. I mean, he was stone cold. I mean, no emotion, whatever. People are saying, I hope you suffer a horrible fate and I hope you die. And they were just going after him. And then this portly guy gets up there. I mean, he looked like Santa Claus, his big white beard, white hair.
Mm-hmm.
And said, came up and said, you killed my daughter and I'm a Christian man and we're supposed to forgive you. And he said, yeah, it's been really difficult for me, but I forgive you, for killing his daughter.
Yeah. One of the most heinous things you can do.
Said it to his face. This stone cold killer who was just stoic and emotionless while being yelled at by all of these other people starts bawling.
Yep.
Bawling because this man forgave him.
100%.
So I thought of that when I had that decision to make, and I was
very cool.
I was like, watch this. I'm going to forgive him, and it's going to break him. And I did. Yep. I forgave him, and it broke him.
It's amazing what forgiveness will do in the hearts of people.
Yep.
So I know this is a little deep for a video game review, guys, but seriously, forgiveness, it will radically change the world. It'll shatter people in a way that will make them capable of being rebuilt in a beautiful way.
Oh, and it helps the forgiver heal too.
100%. I also forgave him, and got the same experience. Um,
Oh, and real quick, did the whole council stand up in defense of Alex for you?
I think I was about half and half.
Really? So which
Yeah.
characters did not
Um,
stand up and help Alex for you?
so Ducky was about me. What's his the cop, Pike, which, if you guys don't know, is a big Colorado thing because Zebulon Pike, he was an explorer. Our There's a big mountain out this way called Pikes Peak that is named after him. There's fish named after him. It's legit. The dude was crazy. So
The
that was a very
developers
nice.
definitely Googled Colorado.
Yeah, that was a very nice little nod for them throwing some Colorado stuff in there. But Pike jumped up for me in defense of me. Steph jumped up in defense of me. Um, Ducky jumped up in defense for me. Charlotte, no. Um,
Eleanor?
Eleanor did, I think. Ryan was a no-go. It was his dad. He was having a hard time trying to.
That's super interesting. Charlotte.
And then of course the lawyer and then Jed, of course, were against.
Well,
me,
yeah,
but
they were the ones at the brunt of our accusations, which were very true.
of course, yeah.
Every single person, including Ryan, stood up for Alex in my case.
Fascinating.
And
very fascinating.
It's based on how you play the game. I think.
Clearly.
Did you have that moment with Charlotte at the dock?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
After her outburst,
but she was numb.
Yeah, but you took her emotion.
Correct.
She didn't have it. I left her emotion. She stood up for Alex.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think that's an interesting way how that played out. And Ryan, I don't know how I got his vote, but
I don't know.
I
what
did
the deal
romance
was
him.
with Ryan.
Did you romance him?
Yep.
So kiss him and everything.
Yeah, I must have been something else that affected Ryan's support of you.
Yeah.
Curious.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's curious. All right, so overall, I have one more thing for after our overall scores, but I'm saving that. Overall, what are you thinking out of 10 for Life is Strange: True Colors?
Visually beautiful. Music was wonderful.
Music was amazing.
I thought the writing was really strong in some places and very weak in some places. Yeah. The story as a whole didn't wrap up as neatly as I think they could have. I didn't like the thing at the end where you have to make a decision to stay in Haven Springs or leave, and then this is how the next 10 years of your life's going to be. That's not how real life works. So that kind of dragged me out of it. And the pacing was slow. I think overall for me, this is a solid 7 out of 10.
Very good. I'm on the same wavelength as you are on this one. Beautiful visuals, beautiful coloring. The palette was just gorgeous. The lighting was gorgeous. Some of the character experiences were very awesome. They were awesome.
Agreed.
Some of the writing was awesome. Some of the writing was really weak. Really just not great. Overall, as an experience, I like a good solid 7 as well. I think we can agree on a 7. That's a pretty good score. Bam, 7 out of 10 for Life is Strange: True Colors. And Halotitan, I got one more thing for you on this game.
Okay.
At the end of the game, you started talking about it just a second ago. At the end of the game, you had to make a decision for Alex to stay in Haven Springs, and you really get to envision what life could be like for her if she stays in Haven Springs. She could develop a relationship with Ryan, and she could have this wonderful job, and she could end up doing this.
In mine, she did. She did have a relationship with Ryan.
Right. Or she could leave and go on tour and go do music. What did you choose?
Well, thinking like a rational adult, I was thinking, why not stay in Haven Springs, save up some money, figure out what you want to do with your life, move on from there.
Like another rational adult, I also decided, you know what? We've got a pretty good thing going here. Actually, all things considered, it's a beautiful place to live. And you know what? We are developing relationships with people around here who do care about this character. You know what? Why not stick around? Give it a real try and see how it goes. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, eventually we can move on. So I also decided to stay. Very fun. Well,
Fantastic.
hey,
We're two alike, man.
yeah, it was two alike, but yet we played so different in so many
We
areas.
did.
So that's
Yep.
really cool. It's so cool to see all of those things. I want to thank you guys for sticking with us for this review of our Backlog Game of the Month. It's a little longer than we expected, but I think we got to cover a lot of really interesting things and aspects about the game.
Yeah, we got to discuss some of it. It's just one of those games where, when you make different choices, it's interesting to kind of see how someone else played. So I think it took a little longer because we were talking through some of those things, but I'm happy with it. And I'm glad that we both found that it was a solid 7.
Yeah, I say a solid 7, which I think is a very successful first Backlog Game of the Month.
Absolutely. I look forward to reviewing Alan Wake Remastered with you. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to this very first ever Backlog Gamer video review where we do it together. And check us out on the next episode of the Backlog Gamers podcast.
Let's see you guys later.
Peace.